Hello and welcome to LFC Focus. It is post-match reaction showtime after Liverpool have just produced what was eventually a nice, comfortable comeback 3-1 win against Burnley at Turf Moor. And of course, it won't have escaped anyone's attention. It certainly didn't escape mine that for the first hour of that game, Liverpool were pretty naff. They were pretty poor. Nothing really came together. It did really feel like a few games last season did, especially that one away at Turf Moor where we just made a few too many changes to the side. And it's not necessarily that the players that came in weren't good enough. It's just they haven't played anywhere near enough games together and enough games in the system as well, because it did feel a lot of the time like we were actually playing a 4-4-2 diamond rather than the traditional 4-3-3 or even the 4-2-3-1 we've been using a lot more recently, with Sturridge and Origi up top and then Shaqiri behind them. Now, Sturridge and Origi as a strike partnership has worked in the past, but tonight it just never felt like they were ever on the same wavelength. Too often they were getting dragged out wide. They didn't really link up with each other at all. To be honest, I'd be surprised if there was even a pass between the pair of them, and anything good that happened during that first hour of the game, the whole of the first half and the first probably 15 minutes of the second half, was entirely down pretty much to individual skill. It was never really down to players linking up, apart from a couple of moments where I think there was one where it was Sturridge and Keita linked up really, really well. But apart from that, it was always just players going on nice little runs, making high quality passes or getting good shots away, rather than the team actually combining to perform any sort of good build-up play. And that was incredibly frustrating, especially after Burnley get their goal, because you just look back at how Liverpool have performed all the way through the game and you think there is no way in hell we are going to be able to get back in this game, because we haven't done enough to score one goal, let alone the two that we would have needed to get 3 points at that stage. Thankfully, the team finally started to click a little bit after that first goal. And a word on the first goal that Burnley scored, I'm not sure it was entirely legal. I mean, I haven't seen it enough to actually comment on whether it was offside or not, but there's certainly a shout in there somewhere. And also the fact that Alisson did have two hands on the ball and it then gets kicked out of his grasp. I mean, I'm fairly sure that is against the rules of the game, but it's now, of course, all by the by. It was obviously a very poor goal to concede. It was a flashback to Liverpool defences of the past who just don't know what they're doing on corners. It felt like as soon as the second ball came in, everyone just ignores what's happening, and that was a huge problem a couple seasons back, one that we've essentially got rid of now. And of course, sometimes things just don't go your way. Sometimes you have an off day, and hopefully we can just put that down to a fluke, poor performance from our defence, and not something that is going to carry on and perpetuate throughout the season. But it was certainly a poor goal to concede, and like I said, it just felt like Liverpool were nowhere near able to get back into the game and get any sort of result out of it. But thankfully, after that, there was suddenly some good link-up play. I can't remember who passes it out to, I think it's Alberto Moreno on the wing, but Moreno comes, I think it's Shaqiri, crossfield to Moreno, who then comes in, plays a good ball through to Keita, who then plays it through to Origi, who, despite having a pretty poor game all the way through, and I think no one would have been really surprised to see him get subbed off on around about the hour mark for Roberto Firmino, he actually did show some nice hold-up play there to just hold the ball and wait for Milner to time his run in, and then of course it's a really, really good shot from James Milner. And that's what high-quality players can give you, even when they're not playing well, even when they're not linking up. There are just those small moments where everything sparks and everything goes well, and thankfully there was a really, really good finish from James Milner on the end of it. And then of course the cavalry arrives. It's a really good substitution from Jurgen Klopp, especially given that he was going to make it when we were 1-0 down, and then it goes to 1-1, and I think everyone was thinking, well, is he still going to bring both of them on? Is he still going to bring on Salah and Firmino? But he has the balls to say, yeah, I am. I'm going to go for this win, and I'm going to go for it properly. So he brings those two players on, and it completely changes the game from there on in. I think Burnley, especially after that first goal, and certainly after the second, looked so deflated. And, you know, that's absolutely fair, because they put in so much work. They managed to keep Liverpool at bay for so long, and they get the goal that might get them what could have been a vital 3 points. And suddenly Liverpool just clicked into a gear that they could not cope with. So I think Liverpool timed their resurgence really well. I think it was really important that we got that equaliser so early, because I was watching it and thinking, if we don't score soon when we were 1-0 down, then there's no way we can get the win, because even if we equalise on 80 minutes or something like that, Burnley will just be able to shore up the defence and stop us from getting any sort of chances whatsoever. But the fact we equalised so early with still around half an hour to go meant that Burnley weren't able to cope with a full half hour of pressure pressure, and it told really, really early on in that half hour because it's a really, really nice free kick routine. It caught them out. I'm sure it's something that's been practiced on the training ground because there's no way that all of that was just spur of the moment. It was obviously intensively choreographed and it worked really, really well. And it's testament to how Jurgen Klopp and his coaching staff are taking this league campaign really, really seriously, because people have joked about stuff like that. They've joked about the throw-in coach and said, what's the point? It's never actually going to impact you that much. It won't change your style of play altogether. But at the end of the day, those small moments can change a league campaign. That choreographed free kick routine got us an extra 2 points that if it wasn't for that, we might not have got. We might have ended up coming out of Turf Moor with a draw. And those extra 2 points that made the 3 points from tonight will be so, so important going forward in the title race. And it is a really good routine. It's fantastic play from Virgil van Dijk. His second assist, I guess, in a matter of days. This one certainly counts. Great play to stretch across. And then Firmino times that run perfectly. I think we all had a quick look at the linesman to make sure it wasn't offside, but he does it well. And it's the kind of goal we haven't seen enough from Roberto Firmino, certainly since his change of position. I think because he's so good in that false nine position that he played last season and before that as well, people forget that he can be a poacher as well. He can get into those positions where he scores a lot of tap-ins. It's something that he became very, very prolific at last season, and it's why he did so well in terms of his numbers in front of goal. And we just haven't seen him that close to goal enough recently. And yet, of course, it is because he plays in that number 10 role. But I think even so, I'd just quite like to see him ghost in and get into the 6-yard box a little more, because that is what he can offer you. And yeah, it's a fantastic routine, and it's really nice to see Firmino get a goal. And hopefully he can kick on from here, because obviously it's a great feeling for him to be the player who comes on and makes the difference, who comes on and gets what is kind of the winner. Obviously Shaqiri scores later, but it's the goal that helps turn the game on its head. Hopefully he can kick on from there and start to rediscover the kind of fantastic form we saw from him in the latter half of last season. And then from there on in, Burnley just looked like they didn't really have anything left in the tank, apart from that surge in stoppage time where they have the corner, they hit the post. At first it looked like a phenomenal save from Alisson, but in actual fact it just hits the post and he gets ever so slightly lucky, but I think he still had the situation covered if it had been on target. And then it is fantastic, really, really quick thinking from him to instantly, he just hurls the ball out. He's got no interest in time wasting. He's got no interest in running down the clock with only 3 minutes of stoppage time left to play. He wants another goal to kill the game, and that is why Alisson is such a perfect goalkeeper for Liverpool, because not only does he make saves, not only is he an imperious goalkeeper in his 6-yard and his 18-yard box, he also gets you goals as well in the most bizarre way, because he throws it forward straight away before Burnley can recover from sending so many players forward to try and get an equaliser. And then it's a great ball from Sturridge, chipping it over one Burnley defender. It's a fantastic ball from Mohamed Salah, half volley chipping it over another Burnley defender, and then a great finish from Xherdan Shaqiri as well. It's the kind of thing we haven't seen enough from Liverpool so far this season, but we saw it against Watford away from home like a couple of weeks ago, where they just counter-attacked right at the end of the game when Watford had nothing left, and we saw it again today. And hopefully that just means that we're going to start seeing counter-attack goals more and more often. It makes sense that we'll see them in the second half of the season as well, because more and more teams will be desperate to get results. More and more teams will be frightened of maybe sitting too deep and accepting draws and stuff like that. So hopefully we will start to see more counter-attacking goals, and obviously with this congested fixture period, we are going to see lots more tired players as well. So it could become, and yet again, a really, really potent weapon in Liverpool's arsenal. So yeah, we were rubbish for 60 minutes in that game, but thankfully once we switched it on, it stayed switched on, and it ended up being a pretty comfortable win. I mean, as comfortable as scrappy 3-1 wins away from home are ever going to be, and just a real testament of how Liverpool are not going to give up in this title race at all. You know, at 1-0 down, Man City fans must have been screaming with joy, thinking, finally, at last we're going to get our breathing space, we're going to be 5 points clear, and we can start to just relax over the Christmas period. But no, this Liverpool side is capable of turning games on its head when they need to, and they managed to do that with absolute aplomb today. So, a word on a few individual performances, because like I said, while the team performance wasn't always there today, there were certain players who stood out when they played, and I think Naby Keita is one that I really do want to talk about, because this certainly felt like the game where he really arrived in English football. Now, obviously, he was great in pre-season. He was great right at the start of the season as well, when we were sort of depleted in midfield numbers because of the World Cup, and he played a lot more games then than he has done so far this season after that. But today, you know, in what was a really, really difficult fixture, away from home, in Turf Moor, your typical horrible Premier League away on a December night when it was chucking it down with rain, and alongside players who weren't really playing that well, who weren't really functioning as a team unit, Naby Keita was a class above most players on the pitch tonight. Every time he got on the ball, he just did things that you think most other players on the pitch could not do. There were times where Burnley would clear the ball and it would arrive to him in the air, and you're thinking he's probably going to maybe chest it down, maybe try a half volley pass, maybe just try and block a Burnley player off and hope that another defender gets to it or something. But instead, he takes the ball, first touch, volleys it up into the air, takes another touch and spins round, and then plays a perfect pass to Jordan Henderson next to him. And you're just thinking, where on earth does that come from? Because you do not see players like that on a daily basis. He is clearly something special, and it is an absolute outrage that he didn't get a goal today as well, because he has so many fantastic opportunities. That one where he just picks the ball up and there's no options on whatsoever, so you're thinking, oh, nothing's going to come out of this. So what he does is he just drives at that defence and absolutely, I want to say a bad word, twats the ball from far out with his left foot. And it very nearly goes in, but Joe Hart makes a fantastic save. That is the kind of thing that not enough Liverpool players do, and it's the kind of thing that Steven Gerrard was so good at, just picking the ball up when there's nothing else on and thinking, all right, I'll make a shot for myself here. I'll force the issue. I'll make something happen. We don't have enough players doing that for this Liverpool side at the moment, and clearly Naby Keita is going to be able to do that for us. Elsewhere in the game, you know, his passing was great, his dribbling was great, his tackling was good as well, his pressing was fantastic. And he does also get that moment where we nearly score about 4 times in the space of 5 seconds while we're 2-1 up, where him and Salah are just getting chance after chance after chance each. And unfortunately, it never comes off. But, you know, he should feel hard done by that he doesn't get the goal today, because he was absolutely everywhere. He was the centre of most good things for Liverpool throughout the 90 minutes. And this really does feel like the game where he's arrived in English football. I think if Jurgen Klopp doesn't start to play him on a very regular basis after this game, then serious questions have to be asked about his selection policy, because that was a really strong performance from Naby Keita, and I think he would have to be my man of the match. Other players who I thought was good, I thought Salah was very good when he came on. He was offering a great counter-attacking outlet. There was one moment that really stood out, and sadly again there wasn't a goal at the end of it, but when he's launched forward and he's almost got a one-on-one with the defender, and he feints his body to convince the defender that he's going to come inside, and immediately before that defender's even finished reading that and moving away, he then goes outside and creates so much space for himself. And sadly, because it's on his right foot, he doesn't get the goal at the end of it. But it's a sign of a player who is so confident and so clever, and who knows what he's doing in those kind of threatening situations. And obviously he gets the assist for the Shaqiri goal as well. I thought Shaqiri was absolutely not excellent, but still pretty solid throughout the game. He deserved his goal at the end. And I think one thing that really stood out for me from Shaqiri was, especially after the second goal that Liverpool scored, the amount of defensive work that he did, the amount of times he was getting back and blocking Burnley crosses, helping out Alexander-Arnold on that right-hand side, and just making sure that Burnley never really had that much time on the ball was really impressive, especially when you consider the kind of things that was said about Shaqiri when we bought in, that he's apparently lazy, he doesn't track back, he doesn't put in enough work off the ball. He was working his nuts off the ball tonight, and it really helped Liverpool make sure that Burnley never really got that many chances after we went 2-1 up. So some really good individual performances in there, a very good team performance for the last half hour. But of course, the one big takeaway is the fact that Liverpool won the game 3-1 when it looked like all might be lost, when we looked like we were consigned to a miserable defeat away from home that would have seriously harmed our title chances. We rose from the ashes. Once again, Turf Moor was the site of a fantastic Liverpool comeback, and we come away with what could be a vital 3 points. So that is all for today's video. Thank you guys very much for watching. If you did enjoy this video, hit that like button down there, hit that subscribe button there if you're new around here. Check out some of the other videos that have been out on the channel over the past few days as well, and don't forget to follow at LFC Focus TV on Twitter, and I'll be back tomorrow with the pre-match content for the game against Bournemouth. Until then, bye for now.